Back at CES, Nick, the wonderful bald man from LMG, has hooked me up with one of these. The brand new LTT Commuter Bacpack. Basically the younger brother of the OG backpack model. It's not only smaller in size, but also smaller in price, costing a meager $150. Which, okay, to most people, that's still a pretty obscene amount of money to be spending on a backpack, but at least it tries to justify that price by being a lot more portable, versatile, and handy. Now, it is smaller in all three dimensions when compared to the $250 backpack, which was the main complaint a lot of people had with this thing. Sure, it was nicely built and feature rich, but it was just way too big and cumbersome for a lot of people. And that is exactly what this tries to solve. And while this was pretty much always going to be a carry-on and maybe even a checked-in bag at an airport, this can even fit in under your seat and count as a personal/small bag on airlines like Ryanair. Though you have to keep in mind exactly what compromises you're making in terms of what you can actually fit in here. Not only can you just fit in more or less stuff, but also keep in mind how much more narrow it is. While in the OG, we could even fit in vinyls when we did the review of that thing. Here, sadly, that isn't possible. Though, thankfully, my 16-inch laptop still fits in there pretty snugly, even if the actual store page lists up to 15 inches, which is weird, but okay. And in taking a closer look at this thing in general, I mean, I like how low-key it is compared to the old one. That one had a super unique design where you automatically knew when someone had an LTT backpack model. This thing, while not only does it not have the LTT logo, though it does have a smaller one right here, as well as at the end of all of these pieces of string. However, this thing in general is also a lot more, I'd say, generic in its design, and that can either be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how well incognito you want to be. The original backpack was almost a conversation starter in a way. People automatically recognized that thing. But with this, I mean, you could pass someone on the street with this thing and not even recognize it as a piece of merch from one of your favorite techie tubers or one of your most hated techie tubers, depending on your stance there. Before we actually look inside, there's a couple of other things I wanted to mention about the outside. First off, it doesn't have the carabiners like the original did. I had my very first carabiner break actually on that thing on the way to CES when it caved under the pressure of carrying a keyring on it. You also don't have one of those big climbing style carabiners on the exterior of it like the OG, though you do get a similar clipping mechanism on the inside, though again we'll get to all of that stuff a bit later. Also on the outside you have two pockets on either side, perfect for something like, say, an LTT water bottle. You also once again have the straps at the front right here, so you can just clip it like this, which on the big model definitely relieved a lot of pressure and made it so much nicer to wear. On this one, it won't be as much of an issue just because you can't fit as much stuff in it, but it's still going to make it a bit lighter and a bit easier to carry around. Speaking of, it is actually going to be 500 grams lighter, just without any stuff in it, than the big boy, so that's also going to make carrying it around a lot less of a hassle. It also has a luggage strap actually integrated into the back, which is an extremely welcome touch because having to deal with a little piece of fabric that they just kind of gave you to wrap around yourself with the original, which is a hassle. So I'm glad to see that they addressed that. Though they still kept a little pocket on the outside where that was stored, just in case you wanted to put something in there. But now let's finally also take a look on the inside of this thing, and I really should have timed my hair for this video. It's going everywhere if you couldn't tell. You do once again have some primary pockets over here as well as a zip-up one. Very limited space in the middle, though again, that's just like the old one where that back pocket was the way smaller one intended for stuff like a laptop, while the front one could actually hold much larger items. And you also get two little elastic pockets at the front for some very, very small items. Then when you move up to the front, well, this is where that LTT backpack magic really is. And outside of the bulk storage area, it has 6 additional pockets for you to do whatever you want with. Some of them are zipped up, some of them aren't. One of them is actually on a magnet as well. Closing this up, we move to the front where, as you can see, there is no front section here anymore. While you had an additional area at the front in the big backpack here, that's just not a thing. Though you still have a little small pocket up here for mostly stuff like, I don't know, your sunglasses or whatever. That's kind of the main intention behind the original one on the original backpack. So that is pretty much all of the secrets and crevices that the Commuter Bacpack has up its sleeve. Meaning that overall, when you compare to this thing, it pretty much sells itself on just the idea it's everything you like about this one, though just a bit less and at a bit of a lower price with it. For a lot of people, that in itself can justify the price, but for a lot of others, I don't think anything a small backpack like this can do is able to justify paying $150 for it. And I also gotta wonder if LMG have kind of shot themselves in the foot by first releasing this thing for a whopping $250 and then following up with something that's actually in a form factor that most people will like. And the naming just makes it that much more confusing. When they're calling this absolute monster just the regular backpack and then this thing a commuter backpack, it does make everything a lot more confusing. But on the other hand, maybe they were smart about it. I mean, think of companies like Nvidia, for example, who launched their flagship first to show everyone what the brand new architecture is capable of, and only after they do that and top in the performance charts, they release the cheaper cards for the plebs. And here, intentionally or not, pretty much the same thing is going down. They went all out first, showing exactly what a great backpack they can build, no matter how unaffordable it is, and then they can take everything they learned, take that great reputation they've built, and create something a lot more useful and at a price that's at least somewhat more acceptable. Is it still worth $150 to you? Well, only you can decide that. It is still a great backpack, don't get me wrong. That attention detail is very much still on those Creator Warehouse LMG levels. It's almost psychotic how many little details there are in this thing. But that's kind of why we like that kind of merch. And at this point I would usually direct you to some links where you can buy this stuff from, but I don't have any paid links to LTT merch, so I'm not going to give them free links. This isn't honey. So how about instead you check out our Patreon, because even a single $1 a month truly goes a long way in helping us actually pay off that CES trip. Plus huge thanks to Gavin Burns, Justin Rage, Ella Roniak, Balish Voka, Patrick Harrison, Noah Pseudonym, Meg Sumner, Shane Allcroft, and Level Up. But anyway, that's all it, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye everyone. Goodbye.